Coming up on 2.5 Geeks, we're going to take a look at the Moto X, a gigantic boat of a laptop from Alienware, a back-to-school guide if you like technology, and a whole lot more.
The bar has been set wicked fast. It rocked in the benchmarks. We're going to up the ante a little bit.
Processing power, I kind of understand this. Hey, welcome back to 2.5 Geeks. I'm Ayaz Akhtar alongside Dave Altavilla and Marco Chiappetta. I'm going to ask how you guys are doing, but first I'm going to ask myself how I'm doing. How are you doing? I'm doing pretty good. How about you, Dave?
I'm doing all right. How do you think I'm doing?
I think you're doing confused pretty well. Not confused, but confused, because I read it off a prompter. How about you, Marco?
I'm doing all right. I cannot complain. Things are good. It was a nice day, so I'm good.
It was a good day.
Nice day.
He's like Ice Cube. It was a good day.
It was a nice day.
That's true.
To die.
All right, let's just dive right into all the great technologies we get to talk about. And the first up, a preview of the Moto X. This is Motorola's flagship phone right now. It's the first Motorola phone that's actually been influenced by Google since Google bought the company. It seems like it was forever ago. I think that was just last year, though. Dave, what do you got?
I've been Googleized. Yeah, it's actually an interesting device. Unfortunately, I don't have it here with me at the present, but just got through stepping through it. We're putting together our full review, and I've sent it off to another one of our editors. And it is a surprisingly well-made device. I don't know if that's surprising or not, actually. You've got two big forces behind it, certainly Google, and then Motorola Mobility, which, you know, essentially invented the smartphone or the cell phone way back when, not necessarily the smartphone. But very well-made device, decently powered. I think what Motorola and Google have done here is really sort of refined the true, pure Android experience in smartphones and added a couple of very useful bells and whistles to it as well.
Okay, so this device does not have a full stock Android. It's slightly customized. It seems like it's pretty clean. On the software side, what else can you tell us about this device? Because from the specs, it seems like on the hardware side, it seems like it's not the latest and greatest technologies. But does that even matter if the software runs really snappily?
Snappily, yeah.
That's a word. Just making up words today. So
yeah, I like that. We're gonna add that to the dictionary. You know, it's actually enabled pretty well from a hardware standpoint, although it might not have the fastest processor. It's only a dual-core Qualcomm Snapdragon S4. It does have Adreno 320 graphics, so a very robust graphics core, and it scores well in multimedia and gaming benchmarks. It also has a natural language recognition engine on board as well, and so it's got a couple of custom pieces of silicon. These aren't just software engines, but additional silicon on board to assist the processor for things like the voice assist, the hands-free voice assist feature that's in it. This Hello Google Now, if you just speak that to the phone, it wakes up automatically. You give it a little voice recognition training session real quick, takes 2 seconds first, wakes up automatically and responds to your command. And you can ask, you know, very much Siri-like. I hate to use that word. The people at Motorola and Google are probably cringing about that. But the response you get is a Siri competitive product that will search the web and give you information and speak back to you information you're looking for. Maybe what's the weather, where's the best place to get sushi, things like that. And it's actually impressive. And, you know, the hardware underneath enables that capability and the responsiveness and the accuracy of it.
Now, I got to play with the Moto X for a little bit, and one of the things I found a little lacking is the camera. Maybe you found it to be different, but first there's this awesome gesture to get the camera activated in less than 2 seconds. They call it like turning a doorknob.
Yep.
How did you find about its camera performance when you guys were trying it out?
The camera was decent, if just uninspiring. I mean, you know, really, from a quality standpoint, it was okay. I mean, it was nothing to write home about. It's certainly not Lumia 1020 quality, and I would even say the Galaxy S4 from a quality standpoint may have it beat. The other thing that's not so hot about the camera is that there aren't a lot of fine detailed controls on it. I do like the app. It's very easy to use. It's very intuitive. I think what Google and Motorola did here with the camera is to give 90% or 95% of the population, the average mainstream consumer, what they want in a camera app, without a lot of bells and whistles around it. So power users like me and you, frankly, are gonna miss a few things, and not a lot of controls. I like the jog wheel for controlling the camera app. Very easy to access. You can change things like it. You touch the screen now to take a picture, sort of default the way it's set up out of the box, but you can change that so that you can touch the screen and it will focus rather than having the camera focus for you. So there's some different things you can do to kind of make it feel a little bit more like sort of a standard put-up camera app, but not bad. What did you think about it?
Well, the actual app itself was pretty clean and simple to use. I just found the images themselves were over-processed, so when you zoomed in, you'd see a lot of weird artifacts. I found that to be, while the images were being captured quickly, which I love. You want that zero shutter lag, as it were. You want these pictures taken really quickly. But if they're over-processed and crap, it means you have a lot of quick photos, but you don't want to zoom in on them. That kind of bothered me a little bit. It's one of the larger flaws I've seen in a lot of Android phones, other than the S4. I really liked the Galaxy S4's camera. It's one of those very pretty ones. Actually, speaking of Galaxy S4, didn't I see that in the Hot Hardware Back to School guide, Marco? There's a bunch of different technologies that people should be looking at when they're going back to school. Moto X was not on there, but the S4 was.
It absolutely was. So, as you mentioned, it's back to school time. This is always a super, super hot time to buy technology. People release new products go on sale. Stuff is bundled, with school-related items. So it's just a big technology buying season. So we put together a guide that lists what we consider some of the best smartphones, some of the best tablets, small form factor PCs, notebooks, and all-in-one systems. So the guide is up on the site right now. As you mentioned, for the smartphones, the Galaxy S4 is in there, along with the HTC One, which is a fantastic Android phone, and the Lumia 1020. So we have multiple options in each category depending on what you're looking for and what your price points are. As far as, let's say, tablets, we have everything from the Nexus 7, which the 2013 version of the Nexus 7, which is probably the best smaller form factor tablet to buy right now today, along through an iPad. You need an iPad if you're talking tablets, right?
Yeah, it's a popular device. I happen to have both, and I'm not going back to school. I've got the Nexus 7, the newest one, and the iPad. I did really enjoy the fact you included small form factor PCs, because you're thinking about school, you're thinking about limited space, but these PCs you have in here are not exactly underpowered at all, are they?
They're not. So if you're coming by Hot Hardware, you're not going to get some cheesy, low-powered, small form factor machine. So we have a few that we mentioned. We mentioned the updated Alienware X51R2. That machine is a little bigger than, say, an Xbox 360, but you're talking about modern hardware and plenty of performance. And at the high end, we have a machine that I love. It's a little bigger than the others, but it's still relatively small. The Main Gear Potenza SS. This machine has a custom case that Main Gear works with Silverstone on. It's basically like a tall rectangle, but nothing but high-end hardware. The impeccable Main Gear build quality, fully customizable, so you can kind of change the budget from something approachable to insane if you want to get something crazy high-end. Just a beautiful small form factor machine.
Let me ask you, you got a bunch of different things here. You got laptops, you got tablets, you've got all-in-ones, you've got the small form factor PC. Marco, if you were a student right now, you were going into school, which one would you get? Would you get an all-in-one because it's all compact like that, or would you want to be able to mess with things like a small form factor?
Oh, God, I wish I was going back to school. Oh, what a great so,
Ow, that hurts.
Wow. Why would anybody want to do that?
Come on, guys. Once you get into the real world, everybody wishes they were back in school. So if it was me, I would have a powerful desktop, because to me, there's nothing like working on a big screen and a full-size keyboard and mouse. So I would love a Main Gear Potenza. But to complement that, I love the Acer S7 Ultrabook. Acer sort of been known for lower-end laptops, but they knocked it out of the park with the S7. It's thin, light, sleek, great build quality, good performance, beautiful machine all around.
Yeah, well, you also have on that list the Alienware 18. I know you guys have a big review about this gigantic monster of a machine. $4,500 as configured when you guys tested it. It's got a brand new design. 18-inch display. So, like Marco was saying, if you want to sit at a large screen, this might do it for you. Dave, can you tell us more about this thing?
Sure, I sure can. I do want to take one step back to talk about the Moto X real quickly before we move on to this beast of an Alienware machine. So the tiny little Moto X comparatively, we moved on from that. We kind of dug at it a little bit and picked at it. I want to say that phone is designed really well. The build quality is top notch. I love the the casing in the back. There's a soft sort of high density plastic that's much higher quality than you'll find in like the Galaxy S4, and you can customize it at the Moto Maker site. You can pick your colors, different accents, and things like that. So, little hat tip to the folks at Motorola. They did a real nice job designing the phone, that's for sure. All right, so the Alienware 18, yeah, all this can be yours as tested for $4,500. It is no joke. It is a big honking 12-pound, 18-inch gaming notebook. We had it all decked out, and you certainly can configure much lower price points in terms of the component build out for this machine. But ours was configured with a Core i7 49MQ. That's the latest Haswell quad core, 4 gigahertz with turbo boost, and it was overclocked. Okay. Dual NVIDIA GeForce GTX 780M mobile graphics, the latest and greatest NVIDIA GeForce mobile core on board, 2 of them. 32 gigs, just 32 gigs of DDR3 1600 memory, and a 512 gig mSATA SSD, as well as a 750 gig SATA 3 7200 RPM hard drive. So this thing was decked out to the hilt, and it's no wonder it absolutely slaughtered the benchmarks for us. Build quality is top notch with this thing. It has been fully redesigned aesthetically from the folks at Alienware. Real sharp machine, sort of subdued charcoal, gray, and black trimmings, and of course you get the Alien effects, lighting effects that you can change up. We really liked it a lot. It's a big honking machine. You're certainly not going to go flying through airports with this sucker, but for a gaming notebook and as a desktop replacement, it does quite well.
Yeah, the design is actually somewhat understated when it comes to Alienware. Usually I think Alienware, it's got all the lights that you can change and everything's customizable, but it definitely looks a little bit more subtle compared to the old ones. No big giant glowing eyes on this thing. Were there any downsides to this thing? I'm assuming the battery life must be amazing.
Yeah, battery life, well, it is what it is, right, as they say. And no, honestly, it depends on what you're doing with the machine. It does have a big honking battery on board. You can think of it more of like a UPS, I mean, it's going to keep the machine up if the power goes out for a little while. No, I mean, battery life, as expected, if you're just browsing the web on this thing, doing a little bit of homework, if you're going back to school, right, it's going to last, a good long time, a couple hours maybe, in that sort of usage model. If you're gaming, you're doing anything heavy, you're gonna bleed that thing dry pretty quick, and that's just par for the course when you get SLI graphics on board and a quad core quad core processor clocked at 4 gigahertz. So and the downside, it's price. I mean, let's face it, this is a no compromise machine. Even sort of at its mid-range configuration, you're talking about a $2,000 laptop for sort of a mid-range to, I guess not so decked out version versus what we tested. But yeah, at the high end, I mean, easily the fastest notebook we've ever tested, and a bunch of leading edge game titles, and so impressive stuff as always from the folks at Alienware.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at an Alienware 18, if you got to ask what it costs, you probably can't afford it.
Yeah, one of those kind of deals.
Let's move on to Windows 8.1 is finally coming out. It's got a release date of October 18th, although I hear it's pretty much ready to go right now. Microsoft's holding it off so that new hardware can come out as well in October with 8.1. Marco, what features are you looking forward to with the release of Windows 8.1?
So lots of good stuff and a couple of bonehead moves on Microsoft's part with Windows 8.1. As usual, when Microsoft has the ability to sort of right some wrongs, they do something to screw it up. But Windows 8.1, in all honesty, seems like a great update. I was one of the few people, and I know I'm going to get flamed for this, I love Windows 8. I forced myself to switch as soon as it came out, and bar none, it is a better OS than Windows 7. Yes, it has some funky interface stuff to deal with, but the underlying OS, the fluidity, the smoothness, the smaller footprint, I personally think it's better than Windows 7. As for the improvements coming with 8.1, the two biggest things that are going to make most people happy are an improved start screen. Not only is the arrangement somewhat different, you have smaller tile options, easier access to the all programs list, but you can also set the background to match your desktop, so it's not quite this big jarring change when you bring up the start screen. That's pretty cool. Plus, you will now have the ability to boot right to desktop mode. So if you are on a full-size PC without touch, that's using a mouse and keyboard, you do not have to see the big giant start screen if you don't want to. It'll boot right to the desktop. Those two features right there, if they were in Windows 8, tons of the criticism wouldn't have even happened. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
There's also native. Do you guys agree? I heard someone speak up there.
Totally agree.
That was me just thinking the idea of booting to desktop and how Microsoft didn't think that would annoy people. That I thought was pretty bold, and that's why they're like, we're going to give you that option back. You were saying, Marco?
So yeah, some of the other improvements. There's now finally a help and tips section, which is another thing that really would have helped Windows 8.1 early adopters. So many people, jumped on Windows 8 machines and didn't even know how to shut them down. It was just so confusing. There's also native 3D printing, which is cool. We actually have a video up in our news post if you want to see how the native 3D printing works. There's improved multi-monitor and better 4K support. So if you're looking for one of those beautiful 4K screens like the Asus one we reviewed a few weeks back, it will be a little easier to set up and configure with 8.1. You also have some SkyDrive improvements, some general improvements to the OS, and the little secret menu down at the lower left. If you're a Windows 8 user and you haven't seen this menu, put your mouse cursor all the way to the lower left corner of the screen and right-click, and you'll have easy access to a bunch of settings on the PC. That menu has now been expanded in 8.1, which makes it even quicker to access some stuff like Event Viewer, Device Manager, or even just to shut the machine down with a single click.
Now, as I've seen with Microsoft products, it seems like people are very excited about them to the point, since it's already effectively finished, I think it's RTM right now, I think I've read it's already leaked. Like, it's available somewhere. People are going to go to nefarious sites. They could go find it. Marco, did you happen to find out about this story?
I have. I actually follow that scene pretty closely because I'm always fascinated how, I'm going to use the term hackers loosely here, how some of these hackers beat Microsoft's activation schemes and things like that. So the Chinese Enterprise Edition has already leaked. I just saw screenshots just before we started the show of the English edition, so I'm assuming a link is going to go up soon. And the hackers are currently reverse engineering the KMS version 3 activation scheme within Windows 8.1, so I assume there's going to be emulators and activators out soon. People are going to jump on this because it is a far more attractive edition than Windows 8. So I think everything that's happened with previous editions of Windows is going to happen with Windows 8.1 as well, in that regard.
I just love the excitement sometimes of Microsoft products. They're not out yet. We're going to go find them. They're online. Translate them. Do whatever you want. And then try to break the activation scheme. It just shows you that people want OSs.
So that's funny that you say that, because I think this is one of the bonehead things Microsoft's doing with 8.1.
And what's that?
So Dave and I are TechNet members. I'm sure tons of people watching this are TechNet or MSDN members. And the reason we're members is either we want early access to Microsoft products for someone like me for my lab, or just for the experience of using them. Or maybe you're a developer and you need early access to make sure your apps work. Or maybe you're an IT pro and you want to make sure the stuff in your office is going to work on 8.1 before you deploy it. But for some reason, Microsoft has decided that nobody is going to get early access to 8.1 unless you're a system builder. So all you TechNet members that paid for your membership, all you MSDN members that paid for your membership, you're not going to get 8.1 until the same day it's released to retail. So no early testing for you, no early installing it on your machine to get familiar with it. And all of those people are kind of the vocal ones that speak up before something's released. I know tons of people come to me and say, hey, do you like Windows 8? Do you like Windows 8.1? And so many of those people are now going to be kind of put off a little bit. And they're probably going to zing Microsoft for not giving them early access. And there's really no good reason. So kudos Microsoft for more goodwill coming from the enthusiast community.
I believe Steve Ballmer announced he's going to be stepping down in the next 12 to 13 months. Maybe they're a little bit concerned about that. Maybe they don't want 8.1 blown up in their faces like 8 did. There's really no excuse. If you're going to pay the membership fee for TechNet, you should be able to get these things ahead of time. Maybe the software is just so well written that you don't have to even worry about testing it with 8.1.
Well, I tell you, I held off from Windows 8 until this release. I think it's ready. I'll adopt it for my own workstation now. But I held off. I've been running Windows 7 just because, I didn't like the hard cut that Microsoft took and forced upon everybody. You always want to have that a little bit of familiarity. Yes, you got to learn some new things, but don't turn everything upside down and not give folks the ability to go back to where they were comfortable before a little bit too. This is an operating system. It's not I don't know. It's not like change necessarily for the sake of change or career change or whatever.
Yeah, but that start
you gotta
screen,
live with this thing.
That start screen was like when you could have a command prompt if you wanted, or if you wanted to go into the pseudo world of DOS that was built under there. I mean, isn't that what they were trying to do with this 8? They were saying, look, this is the new face of this. We'll give you we'll give you this little bone that there is a desktop. Yep. But the thing is, neither side was fully featured yet. And 8.1 fixes a lot of that because there were settings you couldn't get into unless you went into the desktop control panel. And then when you get to the desktop, all the gestures and everything breaks, so you can't use the touchscreen as well. So it just didn't marry those two things well enough.
Yeah.
And so even that simple thing with the desktop screen changing. Go ahead, Marco.
If you ask me, the reason that they forced everybody onto Metro, or the modern UI as they're calling it now, was to take this huge multi-billion user base of Windows and get them familiar with this tiled interface, which is obviously on their phones and tablets and the Xbox. So they want to get everybody familiar with this interface so that when you walk into a store to look for a tablet, walk in to look for other mobile device, a phone, you say, oh, that looks familiar to me. But it's just not ideal for the desktop. If you ask me, it's faster and you have quicker access to more of your icons, especially on a larger screen. It's just ugly, and it was jarring when you used it. So easing that transition in 8.1 is definitely a good move. Is it enough to please everybody? Probably not, but it's going to make many more people happy.
I don't know. Windows 8 and Microsoft always gets me fired up. I like how people get angry about their giant tiles. I'm like, they're just square icons. Stop freaking out. Like, I had icons before. Anyway, before I keep going on and on about Microsoft, Marco, you said last week that you were checking out a Zotac box. Is that review up?
It did. It went up a couple days after the podcast was posted. So if you want to see the full benchmarks, the machine pulled apart and see the internals, want to read my take on it, it is up on the site right now, along with comparisons to a handful of other HTPCs. So yes, come by the site, check out the Zotac ZBox ID65 Plus review. It's up there.
The ZBox Nano ID65.
Yes. Oh, you corrected me. Good boy.
Well, yes. Not only am I checking, did you write your paper? Did you write your homework? I will title it too. Actually, I had the doc up, so I was taking a look.
What would we do without you, IS?
You would do just fine, I'm pretty sure. Anyhow, if you're curious about any of the stuff we talked about, check out HotHardware.com because that's where all the stories are when it comes to the stuff we talked about today. Also, if you want to go around the web, I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, everything's on HotHardware.com anyway. But if you go to the right-hand side of the webpage, you'll see all of these little buttons. You can go to Twitter.com/HotHardware. You can go to Facebook.com/HotHardware. If you want to watch motion picture videos, YouTube.com/HotHardwareVids. And there's a whole slew of things, even an email newsletter, should you choose to do that. If you still
That's a good way to go.
The email is a thing that still exists. Sign up if you want that. Is there anything else we should say before we convene, gentlemen?
Yes. Tell everybody. Like us on Facebook. Like us on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. We need more subscribers. We love the feedback we get from our YouTube readers or viewers.
And Google Plus too. Search us out on Google Plus. We don't have a vanity URL yet, but look up Hot Hardware and add us to your circles.
Yes, and if you can't find it using a Google search, you're in trouble. But then again, you're watching the show, so you should be fine. I think that does it for us. Thanks for stopping by. Auf Wiedersehen.